This episode is sponsored by lendersandfriends.com. LNDRSNFRNDS.com.
So if done right, the worst case scenario is you should acquire some property. Now that can be equipment, that can be a house. Look, it depends on how you set your loan up, but I teach people to do secured loans. So an unsecured loan would be like a credit card, right? When we get a credit card, they don't put a lien on our house or say, I'm gonna take your car. They can go through the process of trying to garnish things, but it's not part of the upfront process. For private lenders, we are securing these loans against some sort of asset.
Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast, where we help the sandwich generation build strong financial habits so that they can spend money, talk about money, and enjoy their money with confidence. Today, I have the opportunity to bring on Ashlee Edwards, who is the attorney and a private money lender who helps professionals build wealth through intentional business purpose. She is passionate about breaking down complex lending concepts into clear, practical strategies that protect capital and also support long-term financial stability. Today, we will actually be focusing on how to actually alleviate risk without becoming a real estate expert or even a landlord. So how are you doing today, Ashlee?
Doing excellent. How are you doing?
I am doing great. It has been quite a day today. I'm just rolling out of bed, so.
Wow. And what time zone are you in?
Eastern Standard.
Eastern Standard. Okay.
So you've been doing this for quite some time. Why now, all of a sudden, it seems to be a good time to kind of help people get into real estate from a passive perspective, more so than actually owning the property?
That's a good question. I think it's always been a good time though. And the thing is, people have been doing this for centuries. I think we're just now finding out. So I found out because someone else told me, but it was something that was always happening, right? Like people have always borrowed money to buy real estate. People have always borrowed money from a business perspective to flip real estate, or even just to be a real estate investor. So that's not really new. It's the getting the money from someone like me or you that is a new concept to us. It's just not new to the world. So I think a lot of people are interested in ways to build wealth passively, and they think that being a landlord is the only way to do that. I mean, that's kind of how I thought. I thought you either have to have a startup with a crazy idea and just be one of the ones that make it and have a big exit, or you have to invest in real estate or you get an inheritance. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll invest in real estate. But the only ways I knew were fix and flip, burr, playing. I didn't know that you can be the source of the funding as well. So it's just, I think it's not new, but it's always been something happening and it's always the right time.
Yeah. So how do we get into the lending process? Because a lot of times we just feel like you said, we just don't know. So
Yeah.
where do we actually start?
Yeah, I think you start with understanding your source of funds. So when I first started, the person who recommended it to me was a lawyer, actually, or still is a lawyer. And I was planning on using my retirement funds to do a fix and flip. And he was like, why would you do that? Like when you can lend out the money instead and take way less risk than if you were doing the flip because you have no flip experience. And so if you lose this money, that's it. There's nothing, there's nothing you
That's
can
true.
do. And I was like, well, I didn't know, like I can be the source of funding. What does that look like? And he kind of just explained to me that how we set up your company in your IRA, so your retirement account,
Mm-hmm.
will allow you to loan out money to people like fix and flippers from that same account instead of you doing the work. And so I set up a self-directed IRA with checkbook control. And that basically means that I have control over the bank account. I don't have to ask the custodian for permission to do a transaction. I can just go out and send a wire or write a check for whatever it is. So we set up the account and then we set up some of my base documents for the loan. So like a promissory note, security agreement, depending on the type of loan. And then the rest is, I kind of had to figure out myself, like I need to have a standard operating procedure for this. I need to understand what due diligence looks like. So setting all that up is the most work in the beginning. But then once you have all that in place, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I need to find people to loan the money to.
So let's break it down time wise, because a lot of people always feel like they don't have time because of sandwich generation. They got kids, they running around, and then they got the parents car behind them.
Yeah.
So what is it? How long does it take to kind of like, shut the door to the bathroom, got the laptop on your knees? How long does it take?
Yeah. Okay. So the most amount of time is going to be in the beginning when you are just now learning this concept. So you will have to invest in some sort of education. That could be, I mean, if you decide to go watch every YouTube video there is on this topic, that's one way to do it. You can pay someone to teach you. There's courses, there's all kinds of, there's books. So there's going to be a time investment in the beginning when you're just figuring it out. But once you set everything up, so I would estimate the learning may take a month or two, depending on how seriously you take it. Setting up your actual business and your structure and your systems, I would estimate will take 2 to 3 weeks. I'm assuming that you're working like maybe 6 to 8 hours a week. And then once that's set up, you'll have a system ready. So it's just getting borrowers and kind of putting things in place. So like, let's say you came to me and was like, look, I'm really looking to expand my podcast and I need some funds to make this happen more quickly. What does that look like? I would probably send you my funding request form. You would fill it out. And then I would get an email telling me all the details that I asked. So that probably take, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes for me to look at. And then I'd probably set up a call if I'm interested. That could take anywhere from 30 minutes to a few hours, depending on how that works. Or maybe we are in the same city and we schedule an in-person meeting, and then I probably request some documents from you, get an escrow and title company involved, depending on what the collateral is. So the process from like request to funding a loan on the lender side, I think can take anywhere from 3 hours to 15 hours. It really just depends on how involved the process is. Because sometimes you request more documents because the first documents didn't make any sense. And sometimes the borrower has everything together. They're very organized. You don't have to do a lot of follow-ups. Everything makes sense. So I would say like on the front end, 3 to 15 hours. But then after that, you're kind of just waiting for the money to come back. Yeah.
Okay. So from a lender perspective, because is there like a little checkbox on the self-directed just to kind of say, hey, I just want to take care of all the funding on that end? Or is it like another document that you got to fill out?
So actually, you don't have to fill out anything specifically saying that you want to be the funder. I think the way that this comes up and is how you categorize your company. So some people, when they set up a self-directed IRA, they just set up the IRA and they loan directly from the IRA. So it might say like, blah, 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 IRA for the benefit of Anthony Weaver. And that's like the name of your self-directed IRA. So some people do loans just like that, with that being the lender. I personally do not do that. I have my IRA own a company that does the loans. So I want to separate my entire IRA from my lending activities by keeping my lending activities in an LLC that's owned by my IRA, because there's other things in my IRA, right? There may be real estate, there may be stock. I just don't want it all in one bucket. So you can create another entity. And when you set up that entity is where you would specify like what that entity does, right? So you can say, it depends on what it does in a primary sense, but you would decide what is the best NAICS code for this entity based on what I'm doing. And typically people aren't only lending from their entity. Like it's because a loan can take, it could take one day to several years, but I think in the beginning, people like us are probably doing 2 to 5 loans a year. So they may be doing other things with that LLC anyway.
That makes sense because I do have a self-directed IRA, but I just mostly use it for stocks anyway. Yep. So I was just wondering because a lot of people forget they even have money in another account from their jobs, reminding them that they can go ahead on and shift over their funds into a self-directed IRA. Because you mentioned something recently talking about the mistake you did with the 1031 exchange. Can you talk about that?
I can't talk about that. Yeah. So I guess I had been exposed to the idea of a 1031 exchange through podcasts and books and all this stuff, but I didn't know just from a practical stance, like what are the steps to do that? And so I just thought, I'm ready to sell a property. I take the funds and I put it in another property and everything's good. Come to find out. No, ma'am. As soon as it hit my account, I was already not able to do the 1031 exchange. And I was just like, wait, what? And I found that out from doing a consultation with a company that facilitates these exchanges. And I was like, why would I need a company to facilitate this? Ridiculous. So I meet with the lady and she's like, wait, so the money has already hit your account? And I was like, yeah, I just sold it. She was like, no, we can't help you. You come back with it.
Oh no.
I know. I was so sad. I was like, wait, so you mean to tell me I was supposed to start this process like 6 months ago? She was like, from the moment you knew you were going to sell, that's when you should have called us. And I was like, bro, yeah. So messed that up majorly. But yeah.
Yeah, it happens. Because I heard that about the 1031 exchange on Choose F5 podcast. And in their book, they kind of explain that as well. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But
Yeah.
then I was like, outside of real estate, they do the same thing just from, as long as it's like changes, as long as it doesn't hit your account. And I was like, oh. So even when
Right.
you're switching over the IRAs from one job to another, don't cash out and try to put it back.
Don't try to pull out $1 and be like, yeah, they won't notice. Like, no. I've heard people say stuff like that. Oh, if I just, I'm like, no. It needs to be a clean move.
So it seems like, yeah, a lot of lessons learned over here.
Look, that's not even the half of it. Like in real estate investing, and I think that's kind of what has been exhausting me a little bit. Like real estate investing is, unless you're doing syndications, it is not passive. I don't know who has been, there have been people saying like, oh, real estate is so passive, blah, blah, blah. Like even if you have a property manager, it's not passive. Like it's just not. You know what I mean? Like, and so I haven't been in the syndication space and maybe that's more passive, but this whole like being a landlord and all that, like, don't get me wrong, there's benefits and it's cool. But being on the lending side, I'm realizing like for the life that I want to build, I think I need to be, the one chilling, collecting the checks, not the one contacting the contractor and trying to figure out, like, I don't want to do none of that. Okay. And I don't want the tenants calling me or even the property management company calling me saying, so whatever tenant just moved out and there's $4,000 worth of damage. We can go after them, but you're going to have to front the money. Bro, what? No, I don't want to play these games. I'm, I was like, I get it in theory, but yeah, I think what I'm doing is shifting some of my portfolio. I'm just shifting the ratio from like primarily real estate to the debt portion, but then also looking at some other things.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I recently put an episode out about the syndication piece. And what he was saying is that, again, it's not passive at all either, because he still had to go around and try to find everybody, put them in a room, explain what's going on, and say, hey, I got this lovely project that I want you all to kind of be part of. So building that structure out, I think that will take time. But like you said, it's all upfront time. But after that, it just kind of reaps the benefits after that point.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the most time I've put into lending has already happened, right? And that was in the beginning. And right now, if someone wants to request funds with me, they can submit my form, they can book a call. I have a lot of repeat borrowers because that's how it works, right? If you give someone funding before, they paid you back on time, everything worked out, they're happy, you're happy, they're going to come back, right? If it was a good deal. And so now you kind of have just this regular pipeline of people. But since everything is already set up, I mean, it's just some stuff can be done by a VA. Like I have contract templates. I can say, hey, look, these are the borrower details, forward this email, fill out this contract, I'll take a look at it. So it can be very streamlined.
So what is it as a borrower? So say a listener right now, like they have a cool project that they looking for funding. What are the minimum details? I know it's on your form, but if you can just kind of give like a generic thing that they should have in their pocket or in their background to start funding with you.
Yeah. So primarily what I do is teach people to set up their own private lending business. Now, everyone is different. Like I'm talking about totally different. I'm going to give you an example. So I only lend on very particular projects in very particular states. So first of all, I only loan in Texas and Georgia. So that cuts out a lot of people. And then I only loan based on fix and flips, the rehab portion only. And then I loan to construction companies like general contractors. And then I loan to restoration companies. So the people that come in and fix your place after it's flooded or after it's been a fire or something like that. So it's very niche, right? That's my lending box or my loan box. Now there's people in our community, lenders and friends, who do all kinds of things. Like there's people who do business purpose loans to coaching companies, people who have coaching programs. There's people who do business purpose loans to vending machine operators. There's people who do business purpose loans to medical offices for their medical equipment. It's all kinds of stuff. I even have someone who does Airbnb loans, like specifically to get your furniture to start up your Airbnb, right? There's funding needs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of have to be in a space where you know exactly what you want, you know how much you want. And then there's the state. And then you connect with a private money lender who has that as their loan box specifically. So I think we were kind of seeing how challenging that can be, given that there's so many states, there's so many different types of businesses. And so we set up this area of our app where people can come in and kind of just post their deal. So they can say, hey, I'm a podcaster. I'm looking for $5,000 for 3 months. I want to pay monthly or I want to pay it all at the end. This is my collateral. This is how you can contact me. So then one of the private lenders will come in and say, this looks exactly like what I want to do. And they're in my state. So I can actually meet with them if I want to. So I'm going to contact this person and say, look, I can provide funding for you. So that's kind of how you come about that kind of thing. And there's also directories. So we're building a directory.
Nice.
Just to make it easier for people to figure out, like, how does this work and who do I talk to, because I get requests all the time and I'm like, sorry, you're in California. I don't loan in California. They're like, but you live there. I'm like, but I don't loan there.
Right.
So, so yeah, it can be confusing.
Any reason why you don't do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
First of all, you need a license to loan in California. Yeah. Someone said to me one time, are you sure? Because I know a ton of private money lenders in California who don't have a license. And I said, I bet you do. And that's their business. But that's illegal. And I'm not really about that life, as you can imagine. It's like, that's not for me. Okay. So yeah, you need a license to do private loans in California, even if it's not connected to real estate. Like if it's just a business purpose loan, like if I just wanted to give a loan to you, a commercial loan, it could be $2,000. You need a license. Now, some states just don't have those requirements, right? They make it a lot easier for private lenders to do those types of transactions. Some of them have parameters, like some states may say if it's under 5,000, you need a license. Or if it's over this amount of time, you need a license. But then there's other states that are just like, do what you're going to do. Okay. Like, so it's very state specific.
Okay. All right. So take me through, because I'm going to be working with a lot of podcasters and I know quite a few of them out there, and they need some capital to kind of start working on either advertisement or buying equipment to get started. What would I need to do to kind of work with you and your team?
So meaning you would be the lender?
Yes.
Well, this is beautiful. I love this. Okay. So this is the best case scenario. And I always recommend that people consider doing loans in an industry they understand and operate in, right? So you are particularly well positioned to serve, from a lending perspective, podcasters, because you have a podcast. You understand the podcasting business. You know how it makes money and how it doesn't make money. So you can evaluate a loan opportunity really well, right? Whereas someone like me, if you requested a loan for me for your podcast, I barely know how podcasts work, right? So I wouldn't be able to look at your business plan and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I'd just be guessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that you would work with someone like me is you would come to me for the education on how to set up your lending business so you can loan to podcasters. So I would walk you through like, okay, given that this is a business where you're loaning based on equipment, maybe not using real estate as a collateral, or maybe you do accept real estate as a collateral. I don't know. It's up to you. You
Some
have options.
podcasters.
Yeah. Some podcasters may be like, look, I'd rather put my house up for this loan that I'm asking you for. So I would help you set up your whole lending business, right? So let's say you wanted to do it out of your self-directed IRA. You would come to someone like me for that education and we would help you set it up. So you can say, I want checkbook control, or I would rather just go through my custodian. I would tell you how to do that. I would help you figure out which states make the most sense for you and which states are more versus less risky. And we would look at what are the maximum interest rates you can charge, based on the state and based on what you're doing. We would look at how much you're willing to give. Some lenders are like, I don't want to go under 5,000. And some are like, I don't want to go over 500,000. So it's a huge range. I've done loans as low as $3,000, right? So it's very flexible. I've even had people ask me for like $1,000 loan for like a few days. So it can be whatever you're comfortable with, and whatever you think is worth it. I would help you set your interest rate, right? So how much you want to make, and then make a plan for growing your money in this sector of your business. So if you tell me, hey, I want to have this amount of money in my retirement account so that by the time I hit this age, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can just worry about cash flow. And I'd be like, okay, let's work backwards. You're going to need to hit this number in this amount of time. You're probably going to need to make this much per year on average. How many loans are you going to have to do given what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I help people do. I help draft your documents. So I make sure you have your promissory note, that you have your security agreement, personal guarantee, whatever other documents that we talk about that are needed. And then I help you develop a process and system for your business, because it is a business.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be, it needs to be treated like a business. Even if you're doing small loans, like it's still a business. So, yeah.
No, I like this because it also helps to put the money that you already put aside anyway, or you have put aside, to start going to work, literally.
Yeah, literally.
Now, my question is, because, how do you find a reputable one? Because there's some people, they would like try to act like loan sharks out there. Be like, you know what? You say you're supposed to do this, and they come in there and just start breaking things and be like, you didn't pay my money.
You mean like, how do you find a private lender who's reasonable?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of this business is relationships. I will say that. So it's not like, how you go to like a bank and you just apply for a credit card and you don't know the owner of the bank. You don't know nothing about them. They don't know nothing about you. Even though you've given them a lot of information, there's no real relationship. What I find in this business is it is relationships, because you're not just loaning them money. More often than not, you are consulting with them, right? Because this is a business you understand. So people are coming to you asking for funds for their podcast, and you're looking at their plan to pay you back. But based on your experience, you may have some feedback. You may be like, well, I see that this is your plan, but let me tell you, this is probably a better plan based on what I've experienced. And so it's very relationship based. And so in the beginning, there is time spent getting to know people and kind of doing a vibe check and seeing like, do I even like you? Like, cause this is going to be a long-term relationship, right?
Yeah.
It could end up being more like a marriage, depending on how long the loan is. Like, we have people in our community who do 15, 20-year loans. That's not my ministry. I do
Right.
8 months maximum. Right? So I'm here for a good time, not for a long time.
Right.
But there are people who are like, no, we are in this for the long haul. So as you can imagine, you kind of have to make sure that you like each other. So that's what I would say. Like, get to know the people before you jump in bed with them, essentially, because the true colors are going to come out sooner or later.
Yeah, that's one thing out of the years of doing this and years of being alive, is that finances do cause a lot of emotional strain and context. But by being a lender, I'm almost thinking about, like you said, you don't want to have those phone calls late at night or so forth. So what about those people that, like, oh man, I just kind of fall behind hard times, and you'd be like, yo, what about the plan that we put in place? Do you then just be like, hey, well, your interest rate just go up and then you have to wind up suing them? Like, I'm trying to think of the worst case scenario that could ever happen.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if done right, the worst case scenario is you should acquire some property. Now that can be equipment, That can be a house. Look, it depends on how you set your loan up. But I teach people to do secured loans. So an unsecured loan would be like a credit card, right? When we get a credit card, they don't put a lien on our house or say, I'm going to take your car. They can go through the process of trying to garnish things, but it's not a part of the upfront process. For private lenders, we are securing these loans against some sort of asset. So some people pledge stock. Some people pledge homes. They may have an investment property that's free and clear or that has enough equity to take the weight of a loan. A lot of offices in like brick and mortar businesses will pledge the actual equipment of the business. So for instance, I know someone who does loans to hair salons so that they can buy their shampoo bowls and all their equipment and stuff. And then maybe they rent out booths to people. Now those loans are secured against the equipment in the hair salon, which is necessary for operation. So if you can imagine, if they're not paying you back, you can go in and seize that equipment. Same thing with a vending machine. Like if I gave you money to buy this machine and you decide that it's all vibes and you don't want to pay me back, then it's going to be vibes when I pull up and take the vending machine back, right?
I see.
So
Yeah.
that's how that works. And then, so with real estate, when I'm doing a fix and flip loan, I'm securing it against the property. So when that flipper tries to sell that property, they see my lien and they have to pay me back through escrow. There's no way to sell that property until that lien is cleared. And
That makes
so,
sense.
yeah, there's processes for this. Now, there are some times where the borrower may say, hey, this actually happened to me. They will say, hey, I thought I would be able to sell this property by November, let's say, but it's looking more like February. Like, can we extend the loan or, what does the contract say? And typically, if your contract is well written, it has provisions for that, right? It'll say, in the event of a default or extension, this is what happens. Or, the parties come together and figure that out. So you can modify the loan, you can decide what your late fee looks like, because I always have late fees in my contracts. But if they're going to be 90 days late, I probably would just modify the loan instead of charging them per day. But, it's the lender. Everybody got their own business and what they want to do. Okay. But
It's so true.
But since it's a relationship business, like I'm not going to tarnish the relationship to get more money out of you because you've fallen on hard times, right? So I'm probably going to modify the loan to make sure that it still works for both of us so they can hurry up and sell the property. So there's ways to protect yourself.
Okay. And obviously the best case scenario is that it's a win-win for everybody. They get what they want. You get your money back plus interest that came through, if there are any, be able to pay it back in full or whatnot.
Yeah,
That's
the
actually
best
pretty
case scenario, is you get what you want, they get what they want. A lot of these possible, I guess, blunders, we can call them, are avoided on the front end. So how I don't know if you know, but when you're dating and you start to see red flags, but depending on where you are in life, you may ignore them, you may address them head on, you may just be like, whoop, I'm out. Like, it's too much. It's the same thing with lending. And depending on how developed you are, how you handle that will determine how that loan's going to go, right? So some people will be underwriting a loan and see tons of red flags, but because they're so eager to get through it, or maybe they're stressed and they're just not having the energy to do proper due diligence, they may just let it slide, but then it comes up later and there's issues. And it's like, well, yeah, there's issues because you saw 5 months ago when you was underwriting the loan that this wasn't set up properly. So you knew there was going to be issues. You could have addressed it at the time, but you decided to move forward. It's the same thing like with relationships. So it really helps you develop that ability to be direct and be like, so I was looking at the Secretary of State website and I saw that you hadn't filed your statement of information for 2 years and you're a little bit behind on your fees. Like, what's the plan? Instead of just pretending like you didn't see it, because that's a red flag. So, yeah.
Okay. So you got to do your due diligence plus your risk assessments and so forth. Speed, because like you said, it could easily take up to almost a whole year doing your research and making sure that everything is good. Now it's putting the pieces together. Okay. It's making sense now. Okay.
Yeah. It shouldn't take a year. I teach frameworks that help you make decisions quickly because this is an area where it's easy to get into analysis paralysis. But I like to teach a decision-making framework where it's like, you're going to know in the first 5 minutes whether you're even interested or not. And then
Can
after
you give
that,
us that? Can you give us
I
that
cannot
framework?
give you that. I
No.
can't give you that. I can tell you what it's called. It's called the What Would Ashlee Do framework.
Okay.
And it walks you through a set of questions that helps you decide, like, is this a loan that I want? Am I interested in this or do I not? Right. I teach it in my accelerator, but it's very simple. But the
Okay.
whole purpose is because when you have the knowledge, right? But then when you actually start looking at loans, we get all flustered and we're like, wait, but what about this? And it's like, no, just look at this. Are we going to do this or are we not? And then it's just a matter of confirming the feeling that you had, right? Like, okay, I said I wanted to do this. These are the reasons why. Now let me find evidence to back up that this is a good decision or evidence to tell me that this is not a good decision, and being able to just walk away quickly because we're not in a scarcity space. There's tons of opportunities and most deals are trash in this space. Okay. You can fix them. You can consult with the person, help make it better. But I teach people how to make a decision quickly, walk away quickly, or move forward quickly, but not sacrificing, that proper due diligence.
That makes sense. The only reason why I was asking about if there's something you can teach us quickly is because there's always something about like people need to make decisions so quickly. And usually the time that goes on, they wind up not doing it anyway. And then they hurt themselves and kick themselves every time. Like, man, I really wish I would have did that deal. Or I really
Yeah.
wish I would have said no to that person sooner instead of me making my own quick decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just using it out of other contexts, not just for the law.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I can give you one thing that I notice people really get hung up on, which I think is funny, is even knowing what they want to begin with. So an exercise that we do in my accelerator is we go through Facebook because there's so many Facebook groups where people are asking for loans. Okay. They come across my feed all day long. So we go through those and we look at them, and within seconds we say like yes or no. Meaning, are we going to move forward and ask for more information or are we not? And the very first question is like, how do I feel about this? Do I even want to do this? Am I interested? And I think that is something people don't even ask themselves with a lot of things. They just
Yeah.
automatically start analyzing. They're like, okay, 300,000 and this and that. And I'm like, whoa. But do you even want to do this? Based on how the person wrote whatever they wrote, based on the vibe you're getting, like, are you even interested? And you're like, oh, no, they seem kind of pushy. I'm like, all right, then move on.
Yeah.
Next. We
It's like
don't
a
have
dating
to.
app. It's like a dating
Yes.
app. All right, just keep swooping.
No, it's so true. It's so true because that is also how I operated when I was on dating apps. It was like, this is a numbers game. I need to get through 100 a day and I'm not reading no bios because who cares? Okay. Like it's you either look good or you don't. Okay. That's because that's how the men are doing it too. And if we sit here and be reading these descriptions and trying to figure out who's in the background or whatever, it don't matter. Like get through the numbers and then you figure out the rest later. Like you don't need to be pontificating,
Right.
every little detail.
Because it's funny because even now my ex-wife is just that we met on Tinder, but the thing about it, she never read my profile. I read hers in detail and everything like that. She was like, "You look cute," and that's it. I was like, "You didn't even know what I like to do." She was like, "No, I didn't care." I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
I mean, because she's going to figure it out when she goes out with you, right?
yeah, that's true. Okay."
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So that makes sense now, like how you said, once you go to the intake process, you're going to meet with them anyway and kind of figure that out. Instead of trying to solve their problems to make them look good and fit your mold, do they fit at least 90% of your mold or 80%?
That's exactly right. Like in the beginning though. And like we are so good at seeing the potential in people. And it's like, that's cute. But if you already don't like their vibe from a post, it's probably not going to get better. Okay.
That's true.
Just move on. Okay.
I
Yeah.
love that. So I know for the sake of time, because I want to respect your time as well, we want to come up to the features here, which is the third segment of the show, which is talking about what are the habits that you feel that can actually take you to the next level.
Yeah, that's a deep question. So I had a habit that was actually kind of destructive growing up. And I think it was maybe a trauma response, but compartmentalization. And I was taught this by my mom, and she was going through some health challenges, and I was 14, very emotional about it. I mean, they basically told her she was going to die, so naturally I was emotional about it. And she taught me to, what she would say is take those feelings, put them in your hand, put them in your pocket. They're still going to be there later. And now I need you to give me my medication. I need you to help me take a bath. I need you to help me do this. And then once all the work is done, you can go and you can take all that out and feel what you feel. No one's going to get in your way and no one's going to stop you. And I think over the years, I misapplied that in a lot of ways. But now I'm seeing just in business and investing, it's extremely useful because there's a lot happening in the world. It's always something. And it can very easily turn into a feeling fest. And we are humans and we feel a lot of things and they're not always helpful. Like my feeling that I don't feel like going to the gym is not helpful. It's just not. Like it doesn't support my goals. You know what I mean?
Your feelings
Like,
don't support your goal.
my feelings don't
Okay.
support my goals. Like it just doesn't, And so now I'm learning, and I think I need to make a better habit of it. I'm learning to actually take that experience and be like, no, be quiet. Like you go over there or, I'll save that for later and I can come home and commiserate after I go to the gym and then I can come here and pout. Okay. So I think that is a habit that I need to strengthen instead of avoiding, because I kind of associate it with pain, but I think it's actually very helpful.
And I think that's an awesome lesson that your mom kind of giving you, at such a young age. But it's like a seed almost. Like it takes a while to manifest and get the right soil, get the right sunlight and the right watering to finally flourish. And look at you now, like you're doing such a great job. So just want to
Thank
give you
you.
applause for that.
Thank you.
So when it comes to the future of your business, where do you see this going from the lending perspective?
Yeah. I see a network of people who are empowered to leverage their money to help each other. Now, this is also not a new thing, right? The Jewish communities have been doing this forever. Okay. This is literally how they have built wealth amongst themselves, is by loaning money to each other. It's very simple, right? And so I see this as solving a problem of access to funds. Black people got money, first of all, and not just white people. Other people got money. People have money. Like I know that there's a lot of rhetoric about people struggling and that definitely has its place. But the people that I'm seeing and the money they're coming with, I'm just like, wow, okay. Because people are inheriting money. People are getting money from their employers. Like they have the funds to make a difference in regular people's lives. And so I see this interwoven network of people who uplift each other's businesses and help grow wealth together just by using our own money, like not always going outside to look at a bank or some institutional lender. And I mean, technically we're institutions in the sense that we have set up entities to loan, but I mean like this kind of relationship based lending, but legitimately, right? Like with real documents and real consequences and just a real respect for each other and each other's businesses and not feeling like we can't get to the next level because we don't have access to capital. That's what I see. That's what I hope for.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully the person that's listening to this will really get inspired to say, like, you know what? I have my self-directed IRA or I have my old IRA from my other company that I need to bring over and let's make this happen. And I want to make sure that they have the resource available. So is there anything you want to leave the audience, the person that's listening to this before we get into the final 4 questions?
I guess to leave the audience, I would say be creative in your thinking about your source of funds, right? So I started with my old 401k, but trust and believe I have done loans from all kinds of sources, for better or worse.
Right.
I have done loans from my savings account. I've done loans from credit cards. I've done loans from lines of credit. Like the world is your oyster. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, teach me the ways. I was like, okay.
Yeah, there's tons of ways. And I had a student who did a margin loan, which is like a loan against
Yep.
your brokerage account. She used that money to do loans. I got people using life insurance to do loans. Like yeah, it's fascinating. So I would say, don't automatically X yourself out. Think creatively about how you can redeploy your capital. Because I know people who got money sitting in these high yield savings making 3% per year. And that's cute, but it's not going to make a big difference, right? Like when you can be making 15%, 20%. So something to think about.
I never even thought about the marginal loan process because I get them all the time to reinvest in the stock market, but I was like,
See?
never thought about it because you pay it back because the collateral is the actual stock itself, and I was like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we might have to talk offline for this.
Yeah. Yeah. People are getting real creative.
Yeah. All right, ready for the final four?
Yep.
All righty. Question 1. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth to me means freedom. And that's what I've always been striving for, like freedom of time, freedom of money, just the ability to do or not do what I want, when I want, with who I want, just to move about freely and being exposed to other people who are doing that, I think is really what like jailbroke my mind. I was like, wait a minute. These people are in another country on a Monday and they were in a different country last Monday and they don't work. Why do I have to work? Like just seeing, and I was like, wait, there's a way, and I don't think that they're more deserving than I am. So why is it that they have that freedom and I don't? And to me, that is wealth, like the ability to do that and still also have your health, right? Like I have legs that work that can walk me through the airport to my next flight.
From one gate to the next.
So that's kind of what I see as well.
Gotcha. Number 2, what was your worst money mistake?
So embarrassing. Okay. I was doing my first BRRRR, which is like a buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, a real estate investing strategy. My very first BRRRR on a Chicago 2-flat. And the reason the mistakes were so embarrassing is because I'm an attorney. So it's like, you should have known better kind of thing. So first of all, I did not have a written contractor agreement. I just relied on the contractor's terms in the invoice for protection. Second mistake, I did not require a certificate of insurance naming my company as an additional insured. Basic. Didn't do it. I think I was just too excited, honestly. And then third, I did not get a surety bond. And for this one, I didn't know what that was at the time. So I forgive myself for that one. But a surety bond basically ensures that the contractor performs what they're supposed to perform. And if they don't, you can sue the bond. And that would have been very helpful for me because the contractor decided after his baby mama sued him that he was going to increase the price of the job. And if I didn't agree to pay, he was going to walk off the job. And that's exactly what he did. And if I had a surety bond, I would have been able to sue the bond and be like, this man is tripping. And if I had a contract, I would have had evidence that, look, we had an agreement. This is the numbers we agreed on. And so that was my biggest money mistake. And it cost me at least $35,000 because I had to find a whole new contractor who wanted to redo his work. It was a mess.
And this was I'm trying to go a little detailed, but was this your first one, like your first duplex?
It's my very first rehab. So it wasn't my first investment property, but my first one that I was rehabbing to do the BRRRR strategy. And I think, honestly, I think I was just too excited. And yeah, but I should know better. At least, come on, at least a contract.
At least a contract, yeah, minimum.
Yeah. So.
It happens. So that explains why you're in this lending process. Okay, now it's all come together. The pieces are coming together now. Gotcha. Number 3, is there a book that inspired your journey or changed your perspective?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. So I got 2 books.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah, you can do it too.
Okay. So the first one that really caused me to pivot was We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. When I first read it, I was very defiant and in denial. And then I read it a few more times and I was like, nah, she's right. Like, I should start doing these things. And I think it helped because she's an attorney as well. And her audiobook just really drags you. It's really just like you thinking broke ass thoughts kind of language. And I was like, she's so right. So that was the first book. And that really caused me to think about delegation and automation, right? Like, is this the highest and best use of my time? Cleaning the toilets in my house, doing my laundry. Do I really need to be doing that? No, right? So I think her book was the start. And then the second one I would say is The Game of Life and How to Play It. That book, this is my maybe fourth time reading it. And it has just really shown me the power of my thoughts in creating my reality, which sounds so foo-foo-y, but it's so true. I'm shocked. Like, she's so right. Like, even just the thought of thinking about disease and creating disease, in your body and in your life, and thinking about lack and creating lack. It's a very powerful book.
Okay. I'm going to have to actually read out. I actually just bookmarked it myself.
It's a good one.
Nice. Those are really good books. They're not hard questions. Come on.
So many books.
Number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
Yeah. So I really like cooking vegetables. As far as animal proteins, I only eat fish. So I find myself eating a lot of vegetables. And I think they just get a bad rap. Like, I feel like people, when it comes to their meat, they're very meticulous. They will like clean it a special way, trim the fat. They'll pound it to make sure it's tender. They'll create a whole elaborate marinade and let it sit for days and all this stuff, right? But I feel like when it comes to vegetables, people just be like, what? Like, it's just not right. Okay. So I like to make vegetables taste really good, right? Like, I feel like salads should be seasoned, and I season my salads.
Same.
Because why am I eating plain lettuce, but my meat got seasoning on it? Like, I don't understand the discrepancy.
Season the lettuce.
Season your lettuce. Like, it don't have to be nasty. Same thing with like broccoli. Like, I was a nanny. It's a quick story. I was a nanny a while ago and I was in law school. And the parents told me he does not like broccoli. He refuses to eat broccoli, but we really need him to eat broccoli. I was like, oh, okay. How do you cook the broccoli? They take it, they take the bag from Trader Joe's, they open one end, they put it in the microwave, and then they pour it on the plate. They just steam it in the bag. I said, okay, no worries. They leave, go on their date or whatever. I was like, look, you go eat this broccoli today. I took that broccoli, I sauteed it with some butter, some garlic, some salt. The way that little boy was eating that broccoli, I was filming it and I had to send a video to the parents. And they were like, oh my God, what did you do? I was like, I seasoned the broccoli. So yeah, I like cooking any kind of vegetables.
That's good. Okay. I'm glad that you're another person that seasons your salad, because I always get a bad rap for putting salt and pepper on my salad and then I put the dressing on it. And they was like, put salt and pepper on your salad? I was like, yeah. It's like, you don't do it? They was like, no, that's what the dressing's for. I was like, no, it needs its own flavor.
It does.
Yeah.
And there's places like Penzeys Spices, they have salad seasonings, like blends. Yeah. And there's like different flavors for depending on the type of salad you want. They have like a French one, an Italian one, like it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it seems like a whole vibe. Okay, I'm gonna have to invest in that.
Yeah.
Sounds like a nice little investment. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we come down to the last show. I really need like a food show. That's what I think I need to do. All right.
That'd be great.
Right. And we'll just start with that. So the last question of the show, which is, where could people find out more about you?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. So at Lenders and Friends, but there's no vowels. So it's LNDRSFRNDS. I probably said that wrong. LNDRS, letter N, FRNDS, Lenders and Friends. Same thing with the website. It's lendersandfriends.com. Or they can find me on YouTube. I talk a lot about private loans. A lot about private loans on YouTube. I also talk about real estate. So they can find me in any of those places.
Well, Ashlee, thank you so much for providing us with another awesome way to kind of grow our finances. dormanted finances, I might as well say. They might be a little active, but we need to be radioactive. That's what we need them to be.
Radioactive?
Yes. To make some money. That's what we're here for. Because it's not doing anything else. So you kind of do it, like you said, the 10% as the S&P 500. We're doing the 8% the same way. We just need to make sure we put it to the next level. So again, for those of you who are listening, remember to put on one pants leg at a time, because if you try to put them on twice at a time, you can fall and hurt yourself. We're not young anymore. Okay, take your time, get it right, and do it right the first time. Thank you again. Y'all be safe. We out.